What's up, everyone? Welcome in to week 9 of the Lowe Down. Last week's record was 9-3, bringing the yearly record to 82-23 overall. Went 0-3 on the upsets of the week. Almost hit one with SMU, but they came 2 points shy. So that drops to 6-6. Hope to do a little bit better there this week. Opening game, we're going to start out with 11 a.m., Arkansas at Auburn. Both teams are fresh off bye week, so should be pretty healthy there. I think the thing to look for in this game is Arkansas secondary is just really not that good. Their rushing attack with KJ Jefferson and Raheem Sanders is probably going to give Auburn a lot of problems. I think if Auburn's going to have a chance at winning this game, they're going to have to do so throwing the football to Robbie Ashford because, like I said, Arkansas secondary is pretty depleted. I think with a week to prepare, though, Arkansas is going to be ready to really stymie Tank Bigsby and Jarquez Hunter in that Auburn run game. So Auburn's going to have to be able to throw the ball. And I think right now Auburn's last in the country in turnover margin. So they've been turning the ball over way too much. Been making mistakes at key times. And that's why I'm just going to have to go, when I look at games, I usually give the nod to the better quarterback. And I think Arkansas's playing a little bit better than Auburn. So I'm going to give Arkansas the edge here. And I'm going to say kind of a high-scoring game. I'm going to say Arkansas 37, Auburn 30. Big game in the Big Ten. Ohio State at Penn State. Of course, C.J. Stroud and the Ohio State offense gets all the ink, but Jim Knowles, who came over from Oklahoma State, is the defensive coordinator, and he's doing a heck of a job for that unit. Safety Tanner McAllister leads the team with three interceptions. Linebacker Tommy Eichenberg is a heat-seeking missile there, linebacker. I was really surprised how Penn State got whipped by Michigan. And I know they're at home there, but that just kind of scares me entering this game. But I do think Penn State will make a game of this. And I'm going to go Ohio State 38, Penn State 27. TCU at West Virginia. TCU remains undefeated in the Big 12. Max Duggan there doing a heck of a job there at quarterback. Quentin Johnson there, a heck of a wide receiver. West Virginia is always pretty good at home, but I just don't think they're going to have the offensive firepower to keep up with TCU. So I'm going to go TCU 37, West Virginia 30. Actually, TCU 40, West Virginia 30. Notre Dame at Syracuse. Syracuse gave Clemson a pretty good run last week. I thought they would. Garrett Schrader's playing really well there at quarterback. It seemed like Syracuse's offense just kind of stalled out in the second half of that game last week against Clemson. But I think they'll find, things easier going up against a Notre Dame defense that isn't really that good. Notre Dame is playing better football, though. Sean Tucker there, running back for Syracuse, is a good player. You have to wonder if Dino Babers is probably going to get a bigger job after this season. He's probably going to be a hot commodity there in the coaching arena. So, but I'll give the edge to Syracuse right here. In a tight game, I'll say Syracuse 30, Notre Dame 27. Florida versus Georgia. Jacksonville, Florida, the world's largest outdoor cocktail party. Probably no defensive lineman Jalen Carter or wide receiver A.D. Mitchell, two of Georgia's best players in this game. I don't know if it really matters. I think if Florida wins this game, its defense is going to have to force some turnovers, which they can. They're a pretty active group in the front seven. Secondary, not so much. And I think that's where Georgia's going to really expose Florida in this game, passing the football with Stetson Bennett. And all those tight ends they got, and Brock Bowers and Washington and those guys. But I do think Florida can hang around if they make some plays on defense. Anthony Richardson's going to have a phenomenal game. And, I never really rule Florida out of a game with that guy and some of the players they have on offense, but their defense, just like last year, is just not that good. And it doesn't help too when they're on the field a lot. So I'm gonna give Georgia the edge here. I'm gonna say Georgia pretty big. Georgia 45, Florida 17. Oregon at California. All right, look, I picked UCLA as an upset to go into Eugene last week, and get an upset over Oregon. But boy, was I wrong. Oregon scored, I think, on every offensive possession they had. So once again, shame on me for expecting one or two teams to possibly have a decent defense in the Pac-12, but that's not the case. Bo Nix is currently 15th nationally in total offense, 313 yards per game. The kid's throwing the ball. He looks great in Kenny Dillingham's system. Of course, Kenny Dillingham was at Auburn for 1 year under Gus Malzahn, and then he went to Florida State. He brings that Memphis-style offense out to Oregon, and they're really looking good on offense right now, and they're looking like a team that's going to be tough to stop. So I like them to go into California and get a big win. Bo Nix has another big day. Troy Franklin there is wide receiver. Them two connected for a couple of, I think 3 touchdown passes last week. So it's a dynamic little duo right there. I'm going to go Oregon 49, California 24. Excuse me. My sinuses are driving me crazy if you haven't noticed the last 2 weeks. Oklahoma State at Kansas State. I thought Kansas State had a pretty good team. They lost last week. Thought they would go in and upset TCU. That was another one of my upsets, and it crashed and burned. Oklahoma State, Spencer Sanders, they're playing really good there on offense. Manhattan, Kansas, tough place to play. I'm going to give the edge here to Oklahoma State, though. I think they go in there and get a big win. Looks like Kansas State's kind of taken a step back on offense recently for whatever reason. Or I guess when I watched them play Oklahoma just sucked. So I'm going to say Oklahoma State 38, Kansas State 34. Wake Forest at Louisville, 2:30 game. I like Sam Hartman and them to go in there and get a big win for the Demon Deacons. Malik Cunningham's a dangerous threat at quarterback there for Louisville. I think this is going to be a high-scoring game, but I'll give the edge to Wake Forest on the road. And I'll say Wake Forest 35. Actually, Wake Forest 38, Louisville 30. Cincinnati at UCF. UCF went down to East Carolina last week. Thought UCF had a pretty good outfit, but then they go on the road and they get handled pretty good. Every time I watch Cincinnati this year, they're driving for a touchdown. So Ben Bryant there at quarterback for Cincinnati. Their only loss of the year was at Arkansas, which that's not a bad loss at all. So when Arkansas was pretty much full bore health wise, so this is another upset of the week. I'm going to say the Bearcats go down to Orlando and get a win. I'm going to go Cincinnati 31, UCF 20. Missouri at South Carolina. South Carolina trying to make it 5 in a row, I do believe. Spencer Rattler's playing pretty good there at quarterback. Didn't turn the ball over last week, which, look, you don't turn the ball over, you have a chance to win, period. It's just all there is to it. I mean, you look at these teams' records. When they turn the ball over, a couple of times they lose. When they don't turn the ball over, they win. It's pretty simple, not rocket science. I think Missouri, though, if South Carolina has a big head in this game, I think Missouri can upset them. So I'll give a slight edge to South Carolina just because they're at home and Missouri finds ways to lose games. They almost did last week to Vanderbilt. They had to stop Vandy on a 4th and 1 after a questionable spot in their own territory. So I'm going to go South Carolina wins a nail-biter 24-22. Kentucky at Tennessee, the big one in the SEC. Look, bottom line, this game, Kentucky's defense, especially its front seven, is going to have to play lights out. Tennessee, one thing people might not know about Tennessee is they're tied for 8th in the country in run defense. And I know Kentucky's going to want to run the ball. Chris Rodriguez, Will Levis, Javastia Smoke, those guys. But Tennessee's run defense has been pretty good. So I think that could feed into what they want to do. I've heard some people talking about how to stop the Tennessee offense. Well, it might sound crazy, but I think you got to take out their running game with Jabari Small and those guys. Make them become one-dimensional. I think if you can do that, you can put more pressure on Hendon Hooker there in the pocket because he sits in the pocket. I mean, he's a good pocket passer. Yeah, he's a good runner too, but he operates from the pocket. So I think if you could stop that run and kind of put pressure on the pocket there and make him beat you throwing the ball. Yeah, it might sound crazy, but hell, there ain't no other what else other way to do it. I mean, he's pretty much passed every test. But I mean, Kentucky's got a good front wall and big defensive tackle Deion Walker. He's a freshman, 6'6", about 330. He's going to have a big game. He's going to have to push Tennessee's guard and centers back in the face of Hooker. And De'Eric Jackson's another guy, a linebacker for Kentucky. He's going to have a big game. And, Will Levis, everybody talks about him being an NFL quarterback, top 10 quarterback. I'm not sold on that just yet. I do think the guy's a good player, but Kentucky's going to have to score points. I mean, and they're not going to be able to settle for field goals. They're going to have to score touchdowns. If Kentucky's going to win this game, they're going to have to do it throwing the football. And like I said, limiting the Tennessee ground attack because I think that's the secret to this offense, the ground attack. So Tavion Robinson and Barian Brown, who's a true freshman, a dynamic player for Kentucky. Those two are going to have big games, and Brown's maybe he's going to have to break one on special teams to give the Wildcats a chance at night in Neyland Stadium. But I just think it's going to be too much Kentucky here. I mean, it's in Tennessee. They got too much momentum. I'm going to go Tennessee 42, Kentucky 27. USC at Arizona. Big thing that happened when USC lost to Utah. If you don't pay attention to USC, they lost their great linebacker Eric Gentry in that game. The kid's like 6'5", 220-something pounds, but he's a playmaker. He makes a lot of plays, and he's out right now for USC. So that's a blow. I do think they'll have enough to get a win over Arizona, though. Caleb Williams and Travis Ty there. So I like USC 42, Arizona 23. Michigan State at Michigan. Michigan State's not that good. I think Michigan is a good football team. They got a good offensive line. They can push anybody around. J.J. McCarthy's playing really good there at quarterback. Blake Corum there at tailbacks, almost to the 1,000-yard mark through 7 games. So he's really putting up, Heisman caliber numbers. So I like Michigan big here. I like Michigan 49, Michigan State 17. Ole Miss at Texas A&M. Ole Miss, I mean, we saw their defense is just not that good, and that's a problem coming down the stretch with some of the teams they're going to have to play. Everybody's talking about Texas A&M and Jimbo Fisher, and rightfully so. The guy is making a lot of money, and he's in his 5th year. He just came off the #1 recruiting class, but can anybody in that #1 recruiting class throw the football or catch a ball or block I mean, it's just not that easy just to when you have a big turnover. I think A&M lost 4 of their 5 offensive linemen. It's just not that easy just to replace guys like that. It's just not. And they lost some studs on defense too. So I do think A&M's got the better defense here, and they haven't played at home in like a month. So their crowd's going to be rocking. Not sure who's going to start at quarterback, whether that's Haynes King or true freshman Connor Weigman. And look, I know it's kind of crazy to sound like, but I just think A&M Devin A-Chain. I think he's going to have a huge game against the Ole Miss defense. I just think A&M wins this game for some reason. And I'm going to say they pull the upset. And I'm going to go 34-30. Pittsburgh at North Carolina. Drake May, the quarterback for North Carolina, leads the country in total offense as a true freshman. He's a really good player. The only game North Carolina lost to was Appalachian State, and they could have won that game. So expect a lot of points. This is going to be a lot. This is going to be a shootout. I've been in Conda for Pittsburgh. I think he leads the country in rushing with 959 yards. Really good player there for Pitt. High scoring game. We'll give the edge to UNC though at home. I'm going to say 48-44. Finally, Stanford at UCLA. Look, I was really high on UCLA last week entering their game against Oregon. Evidently, obviously, they don't have a defense, or unless Oregon's offense has just gotten that much better. So Jeff Bobo there at wide receiver, really good player. Dorian Thompson-Robinson. I do think UCLA bounces back at home, but I think this could be a lot more. I think this could be a lot better game than people anticipate. So I'll go UCLA 48, Stanford 38. All right, guys. Should be a great weekend of college football. A lot of things still left to be determined. A lot of good football teams still out there. Keep an eye on the injuries and also keep an eye on who uses the analytics and doesn't use their brain this weekend. Well, that said, enjoy the weekend's games and good luck to your teams. And I will talk to you next week. All right, guys. Peace.